Today we're joined by a phenomenal human being. She's literally done it all. She was very famously known for the YFM breakfast show.
Hey, what's up? You're hanging out with Eda Rose.
Eda Rose. Yes.
She's an actress. She's been in fashion. She's in the logistics business. She is almost just a few moments away from being qualified as CASA. A phenomenal individual with a lot of experience. She's going to be teaching us about business, how to model your business, and how to even become a good BEE partner in business. Welcome to For This Reason, Eda Rose. What has been that experience for you? How do you see the world as somebody who's mixed South Africa, Italian, you've studied abroad, you've worked in South Africa. What's your perspective? Is it different?
So I'd been in a company doing admin. From admin, I did the books. From doing the books, I became a manager. From being a manager, I then became a director and then a shareholder. So all of that experience, I think, added to my wealth of knowledge.
Now, before we jump into this episode, there's a lot of you that watch our show. However, you're not subscribed. We please ask you to subscribe to the channel. It helps us greatly. And also just click the notification bell so that you're always notified whenever we bring you a new episode of For This Reason. You've mentioned that you're in your yes era. I mean, you've done quite a lot from business, been in the media space, education, and I really found it lovely to say a yes era. What does a yes era mean?
So yes era means, for me, basically thinking I can do something and actually going for it. Instead of being negative and being like, I can't achieve it, my yes era is like, okay, let's try it out. Let's see if it works out. And I've been successful a lot of the time, so that's my yes era for me.
Let's start off in the beginning of your career. I think you started off on YFM's breakfast show. I believe everybody would know that that was the big show of, in history. How was that?
It was very, very cool, to be honest. It was my first intro into, I guess, media. I came through the Y Academy. So I think there was 15 of us that came through Y Academy, which was a 6-month training program. And actually only one of us got hired, which was me. And then I got put onto the breakfast show. And I was doing traffic and co-hosting. And I'd never really done radio before, to be honest. I actually tried to come into YFM to actually get my music playing. So I used to chase the CEO and be like, hi, sir, please, can I play my music? And he's like, he would ignore me most of the time. But at some point he said to me, if you work for me, I'll help you do what you're trying to do. So I'm like, okay, what do you need? He's like, we need personalities. So that's how I got into it. And then from there, I also, released a few singles through YFM, but it was a great platform. It was my breakthrough. I got to act from there. I got to, figure out what I'm trying to be and what I want the world to know me as. So I enjoyed it. I really loved it. Breakfast was the perfect slot, and it was like the biggest slot along with Drive. Yeah.
I love that. I mean, you've really explored all facets of yourself. I don't know which business, because I mean, you've done so many. I don't know which industry we should start with. Maybe let's start with fashion. So you actually came up with an ER collection, which is your initials to your name. Let's start there. Why fashion, and how did that come about, and what was the journey there?
Okay, so I have a really small foot. I wear size 34, which is a size 2. So I struggled to find shoes and good, high quality, I guess, heels. Because you can get size 2s in the kids section, but then the shoes aren't that cute. So that was my inspiration for starting ER collection, was to address women that have small feet like myself. So it was a great journey. I did 2 collections. Initially, I was going to small boutiques around South Africa, and I would give them a commission for every shoe that they sold. And the first collection did very well. I did that. I designed it in Italy, and production was also done in Italy, and that literally flew off the shelves. My second collection I did in Brazil because the pricing was a bit better, but I think I went too extravagant with the colors, and clientele actually didn't buy a lot, so I lost not a lot, like let's say I didn't do cash-wise as good from the second collection, and then I had a little bit of issues when it came to the selling of the shoes, because I didn't have my own boutiques. So I was relying on people, and it started to become a bit tricky. So I then decided to close it, I think, after 5 years. But it was a great experience. I got to meet a lot of, like different shop owners, and we became friends. And they also taught me a lot about what people actually like and the colors that work better versus trying to be too extra, like how I did on my second collection. So it was a great experience.
How old were you when you did this? And why the boldness of saying, since I can't find my own shoe size, let me actually start my own collection?
I was 22 at the time, and the boldness, I just always have felt like, you know what, if I can do something, why not try? That's literally been how I roll. So I'm like, okay, let's try doing radio. Actually, I want to sing, but I think I can do it both. And that's how I kind of roll. So anything I think of, which is kind of dangerous, but sometimes it's cool because sometimes I really succeed and then it works.
The
So,
yes era. I
yeah.
love it. I mean, talking about that, I want us to move on, but I just want to find out, when you were 22 and you've launched your shoe brand and you're selling in boutiques, etc., and it's
Yeah.
Italy and it's Brazil, what were some of the learnings there? Because today we sort of see shoe brands that are emerging. There's the Batus. I think Somizi's got one as well. So do you maybe think you were maybe ahead of your time at that period?
Definitely. So I ended up doing production in Italy and Brazil, and the issue I had was that South Africa didn't necessarily have the talent to create those type of heels that I wanted, right? And all these brands that you mentioned tend to be sneakers. So I think design-wise, it's a little bit easier. And probably now people have, started learning how to do that type of design. But heels, I don't think it's been conquered yet.
Now that you mentioned, I've never thought of that, to say, what is the production process of a heel? Because I mean, there's such amazing heels now, so it must be quite complex.
It's very complex. And if you want, designs that are impeccable, sadly, right now, you still have to do it in Europe, especially when it comes to quality. So, yeah.
And from there onwards, where did we move to? So you're 22, you've done the shoe thing, 5 years. Because I know there's logistics in the picture, but I sort of want to follow chronologically. What was the next adventure for you?
So I decided media wasn't really for me. I had done a movie after YFM Breakfast Show. I did a movie with David Gao, Taxi Ride, which was one of the first Bioscope things on Mzansi Magic. So that also blew really well. I did that and I figured, okay, let's try the acting thing. But then I was relying so much on agencies and castings. And, you tend to go to 100 and 80 will be like no, and it's like that few that will say yes, and it's a little disheartening. So I figured, you know what, let's try get out of media, let's get a job, let's do admin. I did study accounting and finance, but I didn't do my honors in it. So I figured let's move with that and then let's see how that goes. And that's how I got into my first job. I did bookkeeping, worked all the way up from admin, finance, manager, and then they gave me the option to become a shareholder. And that's how I got into that. So I was their BEE partner.
That's quite phenomenal. I mean, let's backtrack. A lot of people in the media space are sort of seen to study the arts, psychology. And here you are in the media space doing movies, doing radio, doing fashion, and you've studied accounting. I mean, it seems worlds apart. How does your brain function?
So actually, when I wanted to do my degree, right, I didn't know what I wanted to study. So I kind of looked at my friends around me, and I had a few friends doing accounting. And I was like, what is this thing? And they were like, it's numbers. So I'm like, okay, I like money, so it could work. That's sufficient. As for arts, I actually wanted to study piano because I used to train classical piano. But my dad was like, there's no way I'm going to pay all that school fees for you to go and study piano. Like, what are you going to become? Are you going to become like a teacher? Because that's what he thought at best I could become. So the only option I had, it had to be something serious. So I had to pick accounting or law or engineering. So I was like, no ways. Let's do numbers. I like money. We can make it work. And that's how I got into that. And first year, I actually didn't pass too well in accounting, to be honest. I actually failed accounting because I had never really done accounting. So I had to redo it and I did extra lessons and I just persevered. And that's how I got into that and passed. So, yeah.
I mean, now we're looking at a future very near, a future
Yeah.
CASA individual. And I mean, I've heard a lot of people talk about, accounting is such a lengthy process and we sort of hear all sorts of things about it. How's the journey been to you? I mean, now that you're almost close to the title, CASA, how has that journey been?
Okay, so I did my degree when I was 21 in London. I then went to work for 7 years and then I decided to go back because degrees tend to last for about 10 years before they lapse. So I decided, let's finish off what we start, because I always had a tendency of starting something and never really finishing and then moving to the next. I tend to get bored quick, which is a bit dangerous. So I decided to go back and do my honors. From honors, I then applied to do my articles. So degrees 3 years, honors is 1 year, articles is 3 years, and then you still have to do, so that's already 7, right? And throughout it all, you have to pass your 2 boards. So it's a very lengthy process. 7 years, it's so demanding on you. It literally almost kills you because even the exams, like we're literally writing exams every 3 months and they're so hard. Sometimes you'll come out with like 30% and you've written for 3 hours. And you're like, am I smart or am I not winning here? What? But it's a technique. And after a while, you do get it. And then, if you just persevere, you really do make it. But it's a very strenuous career. I actually don't know why I decided to continue with it, but I'm glad I did. So I'm left with one more board and I'm almost there. And it's taught me so much about business, about myself, and how you just keep going even when it's hard.
I mean, you've played so many roles, from radio host to actress to designer to a student again to CEO, auditing. A lot of people would sort of say that reinvention is very difficult. And you've sort of proven that, no, actually, you don't have to box yourself. You can continually reinvent yourself. What's been that secret ingredient that's persevered you to be able to do that?
I think, every time you try something, sometimes not everything you actually think works out for you. Or maybe it's just for that season. So there was a time that radio and media really worked for me and I didn't have to push as hard and I was always put in the right places at the right time and things worked quick, right? And then there came a time when it wasn't working as much. So I took that as God's message saying, let's try something different. And I went forward with that. So obviously I then got my job and then after 7 years, they gave me the option to buy shares and they funded it. So I was like, what? Okay, so maybe business is the route. Then I worked in that and then I picked up, it was a small company, so I hit the ceiling quick, from admin, manager to then becoming shareholder. I didn't feel like I could grow much in it anymore. So I asked for permission to go out and complete my articles. Then you go to Deloitte and there's so many companies that you audit and so much more that you learn, so on and so forth. So I think it's just where God leads you and just allow the spirit or the feeling to guide you. And it can be literally anything. I could wake up tomorrow and be like, I want to be in mining. And you know what? I'll try it out because that's literally, you literally have to believe in yourself and try out everything and see if it works. That's the only way you'll know it doesn't or it does.
That's so profound. I mean, looking at, your mixed heritage, we've all heard Trevor Noah's story, which is quite interesting. And yours is also quite similar. I mean, you're both Xhosa and also some Italian.
Yes.
And obviously you've studied abroad and also in SA, lived here. What has been that experience for you? How do you see the world as somebody who's mixed South Africa, Italian, you've studied abroad, you've worked in South Africa. What's your perspective? Is it different?
I think it is different because obviously the way, I guess, Caucasian people are raised or European people are raised is very different to South Africans with their spirituality and, the Ubuntu spirit and so on and so forth. So it's given me the best of both worlds. So I totally appreciate it. I think it's also helped with the looks. And so I have appreciated being half Italian because the food and the fashion, and I think my brains came from that side. My mom was the beauty, the food, and just culturally, I think I'm so grounded because of the mixture of being South African. So it's worked in that sense.
And studying abroad, a lot of people talk about the educational system abroad. How is that for you?
Okay, so I did my degree in London. And to be honest, since I've studied in London and South Africa, I think the South African system is harder in the sense that, in London, it's an international hub, right, of the world. So everybody comes there. People can barely even speak English because we had a lot of Asians, Koreans, Chinese, Japanese. So the system or the syllabus cannot be as hard when people already can't speak English. So I felt the syllabus was very easy for me. So my degree I did there, which was like walk in the park almost, came home and then did honors, and did I not sweat? South African system is so tough. But I think it's good because then we end up being the best CAs in the world. People always are looking for people from South Africa, whether you're coming in as CA or engineering. We tend to have a lot of high caliber people when it comes to education.
And I mean, out of everything that you've done and everything that you've tried, what's the one thing you think, and I don't know if you've decided, is your thing now? that you sort of want to build on a legacy and stick to? Or is it still reinvention?
I think I'm still probably too young to be like, I'm set in a certain career or certain genre of whether it be media or so on. So I think I'm going to be a businesswoman, and I think I'm going to try out different ventures. And I think you don't always have to be the smartest in the room. So my idea next is to do like an asset management, and I'd like to have minority shareholdings in different companies, because sometimes you meet people who are brilliant and they have the ideas, they just don't necessarily have the funding or the guidance of how to actually go about something. So I'd like to partner with those type of individuals and assist them to accomplish their dreams. At the same time, I'll obviously be doing and benefiting in my own way, but at least I've also helped someone.
That's
So,
very smart.
yeah.
So a venture capitalist sort of approach, but you'd still be a bit involved.
Yes, so more asset management, meaning that the company has to have already been in business for about 5 years, because venture capitalist is more like right from the beginning, which I don't want to be part of, because I think they must have they at least must know what's the strategy, what they're trying to do, but they just need help with whether it's cash or strategy or something. Then I'll assist in that sense of things.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Logistics. You went into some logistics, right?
Yes, so that's the company that I became the BE partner for. And it's logistics, plant rental. We've got TLBs, excavators, 50-ton cranes. A very masculine industry, but very, very cool. I've enjoyed it, and I'm still there.
And in that industry, I mean, what's the next thing in that industry? Because a lot of people have said it's usually to do with mining and construction, right?
Yes, so we're currently in construction. I would like to grow the business to get into the mining space, but mining equipment is very, very costly. So it requires a lot of cash flow. And I feel like the banks, or at this current moment, they're a little bit sensitive when it comes to mining. It's a weird space. So a lot of banks are not very big on actually financing. So I would like to get into the space. I'm just working on how we're going to do it. And I think I just finished my articles now. So whether I take about 2 or 3 years to get into it, I think it's safe. Rather research and do it well versus just trying to grow big and you haven't done your homework.
Let's talk about accounting, because I mean,
Yes.
that's what you've just finished now. We've sort of heard conversations about people saying if you want to become very wealthy, you need to have the right accountant and the right lawyer, right? They always tend to mention that. And people always say, well, what's the importance of having an accounting officer in your business? And what's the difference of not having one? And should they be internal? Should they be external? What have been your insights throughout your journey? Let's maybe start fundamentally. What do you believe is the strongest value of having an accountant?
Okay, so all financing in the company should be run by your CFO, right? So your CFO should have the credentials of being a CASA, and if they have tax, even better as well, because then they would understand all the tax loopholes and availability for you to move your finances in. Because at the end of the day, it's business. So you want to make the most profit. You could have a lot of revenue coming in, and you want to see how you're going to move it so that you pay not the least tax, but the tax, that the bare minimum that's allowed. And then everything else you generally put back into your business. So accountants and lawyers, I think you literally need the best. And if they have tax with it, even better, because then they'll know the loopholes. Because the tax legislation is quite big, and not every business owner is going to understand it or know it. So if you have someone that they've already studied it, it will just help you. And the reason I think also that they mention lawyers is because at the end of the day, all countries, all businesses are run by, Companies Act or rules and regulations. So you need someone who knows what's going on. You can have the brains like, okay, you're a business person, you know what you want to do, but you're not going to know every single law or tax law or Companies Act. And so therefore you need these people to guide you. So you're like, okay, I want to do this. What do you think? Is this allowed by law? Is this allowed tax law wise? And they'll just guide you. So that's why I think those two individuals are perfect for a company and are needed. But obviously, if you're a huge corporation and you can afford for the best, then it's perfect. But if you're small and coming up like an SME, you kind of probably most likely going to work with, or maybe have them on a external basis. So only when your financials are done at your end, you'll have someone review and guide you. Because then that weight won't be too heavy on your payroll, I guess.
I mean, a lot of CEOs are CASA,
Yes.
right? And I think a lot of businesses appreciate and there's lots of value in that. You spoke about the fact that you sort of want to move into, I'm calling it venture capital, but you called it
Asset management.
Asset management,
Yes.
right? Let's talk about when you are going towards that. If somebody's watching and they're saying, well, I've got a 5-year business and I would want to get someone like yourself on board, what is it that you're looking for? Or do you have industry specific? What are the numbers you're looking at? What are sort of those assets that you're keen on? Give us some insights there.
Okay, so for me, I think in Africa, we obviously have a lot of minerals. So I think when you want to do asset management, even venture capitalist, right? I think you need to decide where do you want to be in. So for me, I think Africa is your mining space, commodities, we're rich with them just naturally from the ground, right? And then I think also human capital, we have very good, smart people, just not necessarily the jobs to put them in. So you need to figure out what's your place going to be. So I think I want to get into the mining space, probably a bit of healthcare. And yeah, I think maybe for now, those two avenues, and also commodities. I really want to get into commodities, but I guess that's the same with mining. But I wouldn't necessarily want to, example, like own a mine. I don't have any experience in it. You need a lot of engineers and people who know like what's happening. And I don't think I have that at the moment. So commodities is a little bit safer because you'd find the mine that has the product, you find the buyer who needs it, and you just literally be the middleman and make sure that the deal works and that you get your commission and the two never meet. That's how you play it, right? So that's how I would do that. And I guess in the mining space, I'd probably go with plant rental because I'm already in that space. I'm currently in construction, but I'd like to get into mining. And the equipment is so expensive, so big, but the returns are just as perfect. So I think that's good. I think also medical is the next space, especially since NHI just got signed.
Before we jump into medical, I want us to just play around the mining space, right?
Yes.
The conversation around mining has always been very positive because I think people have seen the likes of Patrice Motsepe get into mining and he's done very well. And so Ramaphosa has also done very well. And a lot of people have always thought Africa's rich in minerals. Yes, very good. But a lot of people have always felt that the barriers to entry are very difficult. And I guess that's where you, with a CA's brain, is able to look at the asset, find the funding, find the buyers, and sort of middle that in between. But what would be some of the financial models that you would consider? Obviously, you don't have to divulge too much into detail because you didn't prepare something. But what is the thinking to unlock to say when somebody's got, hey, I've got a mining right, we started mining, there's lots more minerals, but we don't have the equipment. What would sort of be that involvement?
Okay, so as I mentioned, so you mentioned Patrice, right, and Cyril. So I think it's key to note that they are the BE partners of other companies, being Glencore.
Yes.
Which means they don't actually own the assets. I think Glencore owns the company that Patrice is the BE partner. He owns like a share of it. I think it's 20% or 30%, but not the full mine, because that's a lot of capital that you have to raise, a lot of knowledge that you have to have, and so on and so forth. So being the BE partner would give you they would allow you to learn and the space to make the money back, but not necessarily owning in full the right. And actually also owning the buyers. Most of the buyers tend to be abroad because most of the product is exported, right? So I think you'd have to figure out what are you trying to do and how you're going to play it. So I would not want to own a mine because I don't have the knowledge, don't have the experience, and definitely at the moment don't have the backing. But you can come in the sense of, like I said, playing the middleman. So you find the mine, maybe it's a small mine. And you mentioned that there's a lot of barriers to entry, which is true. But if you find, let's say, a mine that's already running, but maybe they're in business rescue, you could come in that sense and say, okay, so what's the issue here? You don't have enough capital. Okay, we have, let's say my company is doing well, revenue or our asset balance sheet is sitting on, let's say, 60 million. You could go to the bank and say, okay, look, this is the venture we'd like to do. We're going to use our company to back as a guarantor and assist us with the funding so that we can work on this. So that's how you could play it. And also, let's say if you want to come in with rental. So you don't want to actually get in with mining, but you say, okay, my equipment, make use of it. You have your mining rights, which tend to last for, I think, a year or two. So you have to constantly have your contacts to renew them, right? And then you could assist and say, okay, so everything that comes out of the ground, what you're predicting actually happens, I will take 50% of that so that you don't actually have to come in with the cash to rent my stuff. And I already own the product. So we dig it, whatever we sell, we go 50-50. So I would do it that route so that you're not too exposed. Because coming out with cash when you don't have cash is tricky. But you have to find a way to make it work. You know what I mean?
Wow, that's a very brilliant model because it works for both sides.
Yeah.
And would you ever risk it in terms of your DRCs where there are sometimes wars? Because I know some companies like Glencore have risked it and made it big, but we're not sure because is it a war? Is it not a war? What would your risk appetite be? Would you look for African countries that are politically stable, or would you say, you know what, let's go all in?
I think that's a bit of a tricky question, but I think in general for business, if you want to be long term, you have to have stability, you know. But I have heard that DRC obviously is rich mineral wise, and that's why America's there, and so on and so forth. But the thing is, then you have to be very connected politically. And I believe also the country is more military based. So you'd have to definitely have those ties, and you'd have to be in their pockets and make sure that they're opening doors and keeping everything smooth. So you'd make probably a lot of money very quick, or probably 5 to 10 year bracket, but I don't know if the business would actually succeed if you remain in the country. Or maybe you'd have your holding company, let's say in London or Switzerland, a tax haven, and then you just open in different divisions, but then you can't actually feed the country, which I'd also like to do back. I think everywhere where you earn or take or get to do business, you need to give something back. And I don't know if it's unstable, like politically, if you can. It's never going to really touch the people. It'll always just be a certain group of individuals that are running the country. So I don't know. I would love to definitely visit DRC, see if I can make those ties. But yeah, I think just morally based, I'd like it to somehow also hit the individuals to build the country, because it's not always a good thing to just take and just feed certain people's pockets.
That's very interesting. I mean, as an accountant, and I think I might be putting you in a corner here, but you let me know. I've always wondered, the companies that do function in the DRC, your Glencores, how are their accountants doing those books? Because if they're feeding people in pockets, is that a line item? Is it how's that accounting going on?
So you probably call it admin fee or commission, right? It can be titled in many different things, but obviously, CAs are led by ethics. So you cannot literally bribe, because that's against the ethics of being a CA, even against law, right? So it's just dependent how you title it. It could be also a fee of introductory fee, could be titled as that. So as long as you stick within your rules and regulations of tax, that's how you'd manage those type of things.
Very interesting. Let's go to health, because you said the second option is health. Why health?
I think because South Africa's public health system as it stands is very stretched, and I think it's not being run to the best. So I think that's going to be your next investment from the government. I think they're already putting a lot of money in it. It's just a matter now of implementation. So I think it's going to be the next place of profits. Let's put it like that. And also Rupert bought, I think, was it Netcare? He bought a big share into that. So obviously he's digging in where he believes he's going to make profits. So I think that's the next spot.
That's interesting, because somebody put it to me as to say, your business must always be something that rescues someone's life, right? And nobody really negotiates to say, oh, hold on, don't do the operation, you're too expensive, you're in need of health. So I think it's something that's like that. It's also quite interesting to note that they're very similar, as in the mining, you've got your equipment, but also in the hospital, you've got your asset equipment. Why such a strong liking to assets?
I think because you need to own the asset. Like how even South Africa is talking about the land and how it needs to be taken back to previous owners. It's because without the asset, you don't have the money. You don't have the ability, at least, to raise the money. So it's very key to always own what you have, I think, when it comes to business. Just in general, even yourself, own what you have. Have that degree in your name, have that business in your name, have that trust in your name, or that equipment or the shares, everything, have them in your name, because it gives you that power.
I mean, you've successfully done a good BEE deal, and many people have sort of felt that, is BEE real? Do they still see you as a good partner? Do they treat you well? There's always those questions around that. How has your experience been of that?
Okay, so I've been a BEE partner in 2 ventures. My first venture is the plant rental business, and that went beautifully. I had a partner who, I came in the business not even knowing what it means to be a director, to be honest. I did, obviously, in my accounting degree, we mentioned that you hear like the different PTY versus a partnership versus a sole mandate. So I I understood briefly, but when I came into the business implementation, I was like, what's that? What are the shares? How do you raise this capital? What does this mean? And why do I have to sit on the board? And what does CAPEX mean? And why do I have to sign as surety or personal surety? What is this? And the partner or the owner, guided me through it, literally from beginning to end, treated me so well. And really, I think that was a BE deal that was successful because I got put in a room to be discussing and signing papers with banks and so on and so forth that I didn't even understand. But instead of him trying to trick me or just leave me at it being just profits that I'm earning, he taught me, it's like, you got to understand what we're doing here. What is this business? What is trucks? How does it work? So I loved that deal and I'm still in it and it's been perfect. I think that it was a successful BE deal. The second deal I did, I was also introduced by the same partner. It was another Italian company and it was building of power lines. So we were doing work for Eskom. So my two partners there were two males, one Afrikaans, one Italian, a lot older than me, so a lot more experienced. I stayed 7 years in that business and I struggled a lot. I was, financials were being hidden. I didn't have access to certain things. I would be 51% shareholder, but yet I didn't have that voting right. It would literally be the voting between the three of us. And I'm like, but I have 51 and you guys have less. So why am I sitting on one vote? It should be two votes. So that deal was tricky, but I think it's not all lost because I got to sit on the board. I learned what it means to deal with people who don't think the same like you, who don't necessarily like you, and are misogynist and are different. And that's sadly also business. Not everything is going to be people that you like, and it's not always going to be agreements. So that for 7 years, I didn't make as much money. They did buy me out eventually, and I accepted. But I learned a lot dealing with men that are, misogynist or have their own preconception of what a female should do, what you can do if you're a different color, and what you should be doing, because you shouldn't be in a male-dominated industry, and you shouldn't be coming to sit or doing the, bill of quantities because you're not that smart. So I've experienced those type of individuals, and it taught me how to be strong. It actually assisted or pushed me to actually go back to school and be like, okay, if I'm not that smart, let's see, because accounting is not one of the is one of the difficult degrees, and I succeeded in that, and I did my article. So I came out and I'm like, no, I'm actually smart, and it's okay. It just was the wrong partners, and that's okay too. It also teaches you how to deal with those type of things.
I mean, let's talk about that. I mean, for somebody who's watching and they've got a business, they've got a turnover of 50 million rand, and they're wondering, they own the business 100%. How do they navigate the path of growth, right? And I think maybe let's make it more personal and say they're looking for a BE partner. Okay. From your experience, what's the first thing they do? They're a PTY, they own everything, and then now they're looking to expand. What would your sort of advice be for them?
So are they previously disadvantaged or not?
They are not.
Okay.
Yeah, they're looking for a BE partner.
Okay. I think probably when you look for a BE partner, look for someone within the company, because then they already know how things are being run. They already know your procedures. So you don't have to struggle with having to teach the person the entire company, the entire industry, because they're already there. They know it. So I would look internally always and find someone who's...
But how would the person be able to buy the shares if they're internal and they don't have...
The company would have to fund it, because that's sadly how it's going to go, right? Even my first deal, I had to sign... so the company funded me in full, and I had to sign a document that every year dividends were paid, it would go straight to pay off my shares that I owned.
And on what evaluation would they base that on?
Okay, so there's many different techniques of valuing companies. It's just dependent how much the company actually wants. I think the company that I was in, we based it on assets because obviously it's a plant rental business. The assets were generally on the older side. So the partner or the co-founder was like, let's reduce the price of the assets, and just got the accountant to basically value the business based on assets, but a little bit less. And then I paid a portion of that. But to be honest, I think the co-founder genuinely wanted to help. So he valued it on he valued it way lower so that I could actually afford it. And so I would pay off in 5 years. So it also depends like the relationship you have with the owner. If they genuinely are good people, and they are there. I really feel BE really is a great concept. Just think implementation hasn't necessarily been the greatest. And then people don't actually take the time to learn about the business. I think people, you go into a BE deal, it's great, you're given shares and it's also money coming in all of a sudden. But also take the time to learn, because that knowledge will never leave you. It will always be in your mind and you can use it going forward. So he liked the fact that I took the interest to be like, okay, what is this? What are these trucks? What are these low bids? What's a TLB? What's guarantees? Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, okay, let me teach you. And then in that way, he helped me. And I paid off my shares, very quick. And dividends, he'd always like try and assist to get it coming out. And it just keeps the environment healthy, and then growth is easier. Everybody's just working towards the same goal, which is growing this business, making it work. And yeah, so I think that's how companies should go about it, or individuals that are 100% own that want to be a partner. Find a friend, someone that you actually want to teach, not someone you're trying to fight with, because then it can become toxic real quick. And lawyers are expensive, and it can take so long and go nowhere. It's not worth it.
I mean, I'm listening to you in such a wealth of knowledge in terms of that. But I think the big question remains to say a lot of entrepreneurs are never sure about letting someone else into their business. And I think you've said it well to say, find someone that you like. But in that journey and in that process, what would sort of be the expansion route within there? Because I think a lot of people sort of think about BE as you come on board, you learn, you definitely grow. But is there a route or a most successful direction to say, maybe look at getting funding through these routes, or maybe look at what would sort of be the growth plan from there once they've gotten this BE partner on board?
Okay. I think it would depend on, I guess, the co-founder. What is he trying to achieve with this BE partner? Most times it will be that they're trying to get new business and they need a BE partner, right? So in that sense of things, they would just chase then the business that he's trying to grow it. I guess that he's been trying to grow in the business, but was not successful without the partner. And then I think funding, you could go the route of government in the sense of is it PIC and so on and so forth, IDC, so on and so forth. But most times that's for very, very big companies. And if you're small, like SME or still coming up, you're probably gonna get funding from that business. That's just the truth, right? Because I don't know if you would go to the IDC, would they fund it? It would probably take a long time to get the funding. And depending on how quick this co-founder wants you in, because there's a certain tender or certain deal that they're trying to get, that could end up delaying, right? So it just depends on the timing and all of that. I think that factors where you're going to get your funding. Yeah. And then the strategy of what the owner's actually trying to do.
I mean, as a CA, and I'm listening to you speak, you seem to have a wealth of knowledge in terms of the different facets of the business. And I'm sort of asking myself to say, is that why most CAs are CEOs? Is the training so expansive that you sort of understand all facets of the business?
I think with me, remember I had worked for 7 years before I went back to do my articles. So I think that it was actually based on the fact that I had already been working. So I'd been in a company doing admin. From admin, I did the books. From doing the books, I became a manager. From being a manager, I then became a director and then a shareholder. So all of that experience, I think, added to my wealth of knowledge. And then I went to work and do my articles. So now I've been put in different businesses and I'm like, oh, okay. Every business has the strategy. Every business has payroll. Every business has HR. So then I was like, oh, okay, makes sense why I was doing this. So even though I only went to do my articles later on in my life, like in my 30s, and most people do it literally out of school at 21, I think it was perfect for me because it allowed me to understand, like, okay, I'd been doing this. I didn't get it, didn't see it in other businesses. So now I see it and I'm doing it. I'm seeing it in every single company, whether it's listed, whether it's small or it's private or whatever, NGOs. I was seeing the same thing. And I think that's what helped with the knowledge base, not just CA. Because if you don't know what you're out looking for, you wouldn't pick it up. Like, you don't know what you don't know, right? Yeah.
And I mean, being a female in business, and I know that a lot of people that tend to do very well don't see themselves gender first in business, right?
Yeah.
But have you found it to be a struggle or any hindrance or anything you had to overcome?
To be honest, the 2 BE deals that I've done were very male dominated. So I, first of all, even got into the venture because, okay, I obviously was not white, right? So previously disadvantaged. And then they needed female, or they were pushing the agenda of female. So that's how I got given the opportunity. But the thing is, once you're in it, because it's very male dominated, they also are like being put in a corner to bring you in, and they're not even sure if they really want to bring you in, right? They're doing it because they need business. And so then it becomes very tricky because, like I said, the first deal went perfect. The co-founder was like, let me teach you. What do you want to know? Let's do this. Let's make it work. And then the second partners were just like, okay, you here on paper. That's all we need you for. We'll call you in when it's meetings, with ESCOM. And until then, like, just chill. So it really depends also on the people that you're working with. Like I said, they genuinely need to like you and want you to succeed, because otherwise it's just a struggle. And so being female, sadly, has been very important, but it's also been like a struggle, especially on, like I said, the second deal. But I'm not negative about things. I think, being in male-dominated industries, we need to diversify them. That's standard procedure. It needs to happen.
Are we good to continue? Okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry about that. Can you pick up being in male-dominated industries?
Being in male-dominated industries, I think it's important, and because we need to diversify. The world needs to diversify and have women standing on their own, because a lot of women are still dependent on, males, and I think it's just too risky. So we just need to keep pushing. No matter how much back push you get, like, keep trying. There will be a partner or a co-founder that's like, you know what, I like you and I'm genuinely going to try teach you. So it's okay. Just push. Keep trying.
I'm a little bit surprised in that, in the businesses that you are now in, they're very male dominated.
Yeah.
But when you started off, it was acting, media, fashion. Why are we not maybe looking at those sort of businesses now that we're here? What is it that you've sort of seen? Because now your businesses are very, I would sort of say the creativity side of things is sort of different.
Yeah.
And now it's like you're very, I'm listening to somebody who's a business orientated person. What happened there? Where's that creativity?
So I guess my creativity, I tend to live it through like my Instagram page. So I take a lot of pictures when I travel and I do fashion shoots. That's my way of living my creativity, because I try to have, like I mentioned, when I had the shoe line, right? So I was getting into boutiques, and then I thought, okay, maybe let me open my own boutique. But then I don't have access to all of South Africa. So I picked up like issues that I felt needed a lot of cash, and I didn't know if I had the expertise or even the backing to do that. And remember, at the end of the day, government can push the BEE thing and to male-dominated industries because those industries are needed by government. But no shop, like no Edgar's, Woolies really need a BEE partner. They don't get work from the government. They service the entire population. So therefore, they don't really need a BEE partner, which means it's more difficult for you to enter, right? So I just ended up getting into industries where the doors opened. And I was like, okay, this is open, let me try it. So that's why I didn't get into fashion. Maybe in future, who knows, I can sit on the board, like once I'm a CA, sit on the board of a listed company that has like the Fushini Group or whatever. That space is still open. And I think creativity wise, I don't know if I'd end up having a lot of power in that sense, because that's your buyers and they're more not really on the board, but like within operations. So I don't know how deep I'd get into that. But to be honest, I feel like I like the male-dominated spaces because it gives you space to leave a little bit of like I was there, I made a difference. Versus like whether it be in, I don't know, maybe in media like radio. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't thought about it, to be honest, until now. But I feel like I love more the mining, the hospitals, like logistics, plant rental. I think that's my vibe. And maybe because I love power. I don't know. I guess you could get power as well from, I don't know. I never thought about it, but at the moment I'm not in that space. But I'll think about it. Thank you for that.
I mean, I think a lot of questions, when we look at a lot of male dominated industry, a lot of men would say things like, we want to make money. You know? And when it comes to sort of hearing that from females, sometimes it's quite an interesting conversation, right? But for yourself, do you want to be a billionaire? Do you want to make a lot of money? Are they those ambitions that you've got?
Of course, who doesn't want to make money?
Oh,
I'd
there's lots
love
of
to
people
be.
that don't.
There's a lot of people who don't want to make money.
Well, they're not the billionaire type of money, but yeah.
I think it's the freedom that comes with it, right? And then the fact that you leave a legacy in the sense that as a woman, I went through all these different careers and I ended up getting to where I want and I was successful with it. I think independence also is the key thing. So I would love to be a millionaire in dollars. And if that means being a billionaire in rands, perfect. But what's key for me is not really the money. It's, I guess, the power that comes with it in the sense that you can change and do and influence and help certain things. I want that. And then also to just be independent, to do everything that I want. I never want to be told, like, look, wake up at this time, do that, and don't control my own time. I would want independence and just the power to assist certain industries or people, because that also is like leaving a legacy. So that's what's key to me, along with the money. But yeah.
Who are your mentors? Who do you look up to and why?
Mentors. So I would put my brother on as a mentor. He runs a company with about 500 people. And I think that's very, very difficult to manage all those people. And he takes on projects sometimes over R1 billion, and he does it successfully. He has his limits or his, what would you say it, like things that he's not really good at, but he still makes it work. And I see his tenacity and how he keeps pushing. And he's always trying to help people, and because when you hire people, you also literally almost hiring the entire family. Because they'll come at some point and say, look, my kid needs to go to school, my cousin, my nephew, whatever. And he ends up also helping those type of individuals. So I think he's a good mentor to me. But obviously, because he is my brother, we have that sibling rivalry here and there. And sometimes it's like you think you know too much and you actually don't and blah, blah, blah. But I think as a business person, he's fantastic. And also over the years, I've met different people. Maybe they're not my mentors at the moment, but I've learned from a lot of different business people. And that has been great. I was mentored for a little while, maybe like 6 months to a year, from a gentleman that owned 3 mines, coal mines. And the way he would just talk about like his visions, and I'll be like, is that even possible? And he just dreamed so big, I don't want to say names, but yeah, he was absolutely fantastic. But I guess I'm getting mentored mainly by men. And it's because men don't tend to have boundaries. Like, they literally dream anything. They like, they can come from Limpopo, like a small town, little village, and they can be like, I'm going to own a mine. And I'm like, okay, how? Where are you getting the funding? How are we going to do this? And they're like, like, the fact that I want to do it, I'm just going to be positive about it, and I'll meet people that are going to open these doors for me. And that's what I think has assisted me to be like, yo, you can come from media, TV, shoes, and become a CA. You can literally do anything that you want to do.
So profound. And in terms of the business world, I mean, out there, everywhere around the world, who are some of the business people that you look at and you're like, I like the way that this business people or person moves?
I think obviously Oprah is fantastic because she broke that boundary of media and being a person of color, right? I think also... Obama, because he was the first. I tend to find people that are the first of doing something. Those tend to be like people that inspire me internationally, I guess.
What would you say to your younger self? I mean, being at YFM, what would you say to that younger version of yourself?
When I was young, I tended to be I used to get sad very quickly. I'd have a vision and it wouldn't come to fruition. I'd get so sad and so depressed. So I'd say to my 21-year-old self, live in the now, having goals and thinking about the future is perfect, but enjoy now because you're never going to have it again. And also, don't be so hard on yourself. If things don't work out right now, the right timing will come and it will happen, I think I'd basically say that, those 2 things.
And if you were to write a book, what chapter of your life are you in right now? And what would the title of that book be?
The title of the book? I I think I would call it probably yes, in the sense that everything I've been trying to do, I have luckily achieved to do, right? I've had ventures that didn't succeed, but they also taught me lessons. And the era that I think that I'm in now, look, for me, my biggest goal has been to become a CA. I'm literally a step away from it. And I think I would talk about that because it wasn't just about being a CA. It was proving to myself that I'm smart, that I actually have capacity to, run a business, understand what a business is, audit, sit with people that were tremendously astute partners and have them like mentor and teach me and talk to me and be like, I could deal, and I was dealing with such people. So for me, I feel like the past 3 years has been too much learning and too much expanding of myself. So I would just be in an area of just relaxing and appreciating everything that I've been through. So that's the area that I'm in at the moment. Just realizing, girl, you had this dream, you're in it, you've done it, and every single insecurity that I had, you're not smart enough. These male partners are saying you shouldn't do this. And I'm like, that doesn't sound right. I've achieved to prove to myself and to them that I actually am smart. And now I just need to sit and bask in that. It's not any more proving. I've already done it,
So profound. We always ask people to share their habits to inspire people out there. What are some of the habits that you've sort of accumulated in life that you go back to that continually make you the person that you are?
I don't know if it's a habit. It could be a bad addiction, but I tend to, if I have an idea in my mind, right, I have a vision board. So I write out my goals up to 5 years and I sit on it. Hey, if I get a no here, I'm going to find a yes somewhere else. I'll sit on it. I'll continue on it. I'll find a door that eventually will open. So I don't really accept no, which is a little bit dangerous sometimes. So I guess I have a lot of tenacity. I just carry on. I keep pushing, perseverance. If I fail something, I'll write that thing 5 times till I get it. So I keep putting in the hours till I get what I want. And I think that's really what has brought me to here, hey? Because I've gotten a lot of no's.
And in terms of your books or the information that you take in, what are some of your habits there?
To be honest, in the past 3 years, I haven't read a lot because I've been, on the articles journey. So I had to learn everything relating to auditing and this tax law and this rule and so on and so forth. But I would like to look at, I really enjoyed Art of War. And I think that was a fantastic book. And I think I should read it again because based on what path you are in life, it gives you different, you pick up different things from it. And the art of war is like when to fight and when not to fight. Sometimes not everything is really a battle and you don't have to fight everything. And I think that's also very important in business, in studies, in relationships, literally in everything. So I think that's a really good book.
You really had an amazing and very inspirational story. What are your final thoughts? Because we usually ask people, what legacy do you want to leave behind? But I think you're still quite young. We're going to see much more from you. But where you are right now, what sort of message would you share with somebody watching and saying they're looking up to you, they're inspired? What would you share with them?
I would say, whatever you think you can do, don't worry about your color. Don't worry about whether you're female, whether you have the door right now opened or not, or whether you have the finances. Have your vision and literally go for it. And I truly believe if you really want something bad enough, it will come to you and the doors will open and you'll find a way. So always push for everything that you want and reinvent yourself continuously. I mean, I've done media, I've done shoe design, I've done, the CA thing, businesswoman, I've done it all. Don't box yourself. Literally, we grow up and we have so many different phases, like from birth to teenager to so on and so forth. You can have the same when it comes to a career. Just everything you think you want to do it. Go for it. We literally have one life. Chase everything. And I think you'll get there.
So profound. Thank you so much for joining us and for
you.
sharing so much wisdom.
Thank you so much for having me.